The night was full of fire and pain, and all of it was trying to explode out through his skull. "Wash, come on, damn it, get up!" The voice was insistent, the grip on his arm doubly so. Kyle Washakie Williams tried to shake off the dull haze over his thoughts, seizing on to the touch, the voice. It was familiar in an unfamiliar way. The voice one he'd heard before, but the accent like nothing in the world. It was an accent tinged with a dialect of ancient Greek, because that was where she'd been born and raised. Here, on this planet where a colony of those ancient Greeks had been summoned through a gateway in time and space by aliens a couple thousand years ago. But not just Greek. She'd learned English through a computer teaching machine after it had analyzed his words and speech patterns, so there was also an added twang of Wyoming in the mix, and that combination was unmistakable. Wash pried his eyes open, even the flickering, inconstant light of the fire painful. Concussion. He'd had one before, and it was no fun. Hopefully this one was light, minor, because nausea and dizziness would probably get him killed. Her face cohered out of jumbled light and shadow into something hard-edged, if not at all unpleasant, her red hair tied into a ponytail, a lighter shade than the trickle of blood running from the cut on her cheek. Her expression fit her fierce visage, harsh with desperation, and the ruin and carnage around them explained it. Memory flooded back into Wash's battered brain, memory of where he was and what had just happened. The cold helped. The chill wind swept through the broken fuselage of the downed transport, reminding him of the mountain pass, the wisps of early snow, and the gate. They'd been making a run for it, heading back to Earth, to the Nevada desert just outside Nellis Air Force Base, trying to stay ahead of the demon army streaming through the gateway they'd breached. Breached with one of our own nuclear weapons. It had been like watching a nightmare unfold, seeing the gigantic, spider-like construct the Hive Mind had created for the specific task of catching a cruise missile. The massive stretches of webbing attached to their 30 yards long upper arms had snatched the decelerating tomahawk out of the air, and while it had meant a devastating failure of their operation, none of them had suspected the real truth. The Thacians had heavy tungsten shields over the gates they controlled, built to hold up against anything the Hive Mind could create in its genetic vats, but not against a nuclear warhead. The demon army had come through behind the nuclear blast, and Valon's superior, Prefect Marcos, had sent them in the transport, told Valon to go with them back to Earth to plead the Thacians' case, try to get the U.S. to send in troops.